Imagine you are a construction business owner right now.
Right.
You spend the last few years aggressively scaling your operations. You know, you've financed millions in new heavy equipment. You've recruited and trained this massive, highly skilled crew.
Yeah, you're gearing up.
Exactly. And as you look at your project pipeline, you are feeling incredibly optimistic about the future. I mean, you have the capacity and you're ready to build, but there is a massive structural storm brewing just over the horizon, and it carries a hard, unforgiving deadline. It's September 30, 2026.
Which is exactly 6 months from today.
6 months. That is the day the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the IIJA, expires.
Oh.
And just as a reminder, that happens to be the largest infrastructure bill in American history.
Yeah, it's huge.
And as we sit here right now, nobody in Washington has a comprehensive replacement ready to go.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
We have a mountain of intelligence, articles, and research in front of us today. Our mission for this deep dive is to really decode this upcoming expiration, analyze the massive funding gap that's causing all this legislative gridlock, and give you an exact strategic playbook on how to position your construction business for what is shaping up to be a very turbulent next decade.
I want to speak directly to you, the listener, right off the bat here, because whether your particular business relies on direct federal highway contracts or, maybe you depend heavily on the state and municipal funding that eventually trickles down from those federal matches.
The local stuff.
Exactly. The events unfolding in Washington over the next 6 months are going to dictate your project pipeline. This is not just some abstract policy debate.
Well, it's very real.
The clock is actively running. The decisions made, or frankly, the decisions deferred, they will determine whether you are expanding your footprint next year or if you're going to be scrambling to find enough work just to keep your current estimators and field crews on the payroll.
So let's start right at the root of the problem. Because to understand how to prepare your business, you first have to understand the sheer scale and really the underlying mechanics of the structural deficit we are looking at.
Right.
The gridlock isn't just political posturing. I mean, it comes down to a very unforgiving math problem located right inside the Highway Trust Fund.
Yeah, the math is fundamentally broken. And it has been for a long time.
How so?
Well, the Highway Trust Fund is the primary vehicle the federal government uses to pay for road and transit projects, right?
Right.
So to maintain the current historic spending levels that the industry has basically gotten used to under the IIJA, that fund needs approximately $102 billion per year.
$102 billion. Okay.
But the fund relies heavily on the federal gas tax for its revenue, and that tax sits at 18.4 cents per gallon.
Which hasn't changed in what?
It hasn't been increased since 1993.
Wow. 1993.
Yeah. So when you factor in the rise of highly fuel-efficient vehicles, the adoption of electric vehicles that don't buy gas at all.
Right, the EVs.
And just decades of inflation, that revenue stream only generates about $44 billion a year.
Okay, let me pause right there just to put that into perspective for a contractor. The fund needs $102 billion, but it is only taking in $44 billion.
Yep, that's the math.
It is like bidding a massive multi-phase job where the client's approved financing only covers like 40% of the raw materials, but they are still demanding that you hand over the keys to a finished state-of-the-art facility on time.
It's a perfect analogy.
There is a $58 billion annual gap between what is expected and what is actually funded. And nobody knows where that massive chunk of money is going to come from because, let's face it, raising taxes is politically toxic.
It's completely toxic. And because there is no obvious politically safe mechanism to fill a $58 billion structural deficit, historical precedent strongly suggests that a timely, comprehensive fix is highly unlikely.
And we aren't just guessing here.
No, we have decades of a track record to look at. Since 1991, every single surface transportation reauthorization bill has expired without a replacement ready to take its place. Every single one.
Man. And the one that always comes up in these conversations, like the absolute nightmare scenario for the industry, was back in 2009 when the Safe TU bill expired.
Oh yeah, that was brutal.
For those who might not remember the acronym, that was the Safe, Accountable, Flexible, Efficient Transportation Equity Act. When that expired, lawmakers were stuck on the exact same issue: how to fund it.
And the result of that 2009 expiration was paralyzing for the industry. I mean, Congress could not agree on a long-term funding mechanism, so they resorted to passing short-term extensions.
Just kicking the can down the road.
Exactly. And it dragged on for 33 months.
33 months.
They passed 10 separate temporary extensions before finally passing a new comprehensive bill, which was MAP 21. Think about what that does to a state Department of Transportation.
It's chaos.
A state DOT cannot confidently put a massive 4-year interstate interchange project out for public bid if the federal government is only guaranteeing their matching funds for the next 45 days.
Right. So they shelf the big projects, they hold the capital back because the risk of starting a project and having the federal tap turn off halfway through is just way too high.
Yep.
And who pays the price for that? The contractors. You cannot plan a business around 10 short-term extensions. You can't confidently sign a 5-year lease on a new fleet of articulated dump trucks or hire a fresh team of project managers when your primary revenue source is living month to month.
You really can.
So with history heavily predicting a massive delay, what is the ground game looking like right now? Like, what is happening in real time to try and force a solution before we hit a complete pipeline freeze?
Well, there is significant frantic movement happening on Capitol Hill.
Okay.
The House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee is scheduled to hold a full committee markup literally tomorrow, March 18th.
Oh, well, tomorrow.
Yeah. Chairman Sam Graves has been running a series of America Builds hearings since January of 2025, specifically trying to establish a baseline of needs to get ahead of this September deadline.
And the Senate.
The Senate Authorizing Committee is working on a parallel track, but getting a finalized bicameral bill to the president's desk by September 30th remains incredibly doubtful.
But the heavy hitters in the construction industry aren't just sitting around hoping for the best either. The lobbying efforts are already getting really aggressive.
Oh, the pressure campaigns are in full swing. If we look at the data, well, according to Smart Business Automator's Market Intelligence report, the Associated General Contractors, the AGC, they just launched a massive $2 million America's Moving Forward campaign.
$2 million. Where are they focusing that?
They are specifically targeting Texas and Missouri. They chose those states because they have massive infrastructure demands and rely really heavily on federal formulas.
Makes sense.
And the numbers they are pushing in front of lawmakers are staggering. They're highlighting a $152 billion transit funding gap over the next 10 years, a $280 billion cumulative infrastructure shortfall by 2034, and pointing out that $86.3 billion is needed just for basic roadway maintenance alone over the next decade.
I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Sure.
Because a lot of contractors might be looking at this and feeling, a false sense of security. The IIJA was historic. It delivered a 67% funding increase over the prior transportation bill.
It did.
We've had this massive injection of capital flowing into the industry for years now. Didn't that create a substantial cushion? Surely these construction firms have enough backlog and momentum built up to ride out a few months of Washington gridlock without hitting the panic button.
I get why you'd think that. It seems intuitive that a massive cash injection would create a buffer, but that completely misunderstands the mechanics of how the construction labor market actually absorbs capital.
How so?
The industry didn't just bank that 67% increase. They immediately put it to work by expanding their overhead and their payrolls. To answer that, we can look at Smart Business Automator's Market Intelligence report, which tracks labor utilization.
What does this show?
The Dallas-Fort Worth area alone added 47,100 construction jobs between December 2020 and December 2025.
Wow. Almost 50,000 jobs.
Exactly. And those additions were directly attributable to new IIJA-funded projects coming online.
And that is the catch, right? You can't stockpile unspent labor. Construction is fundamentally a cash flow business.
Yes, absolutely.
You expanded your workforce to meet a historic demand, but those 47,000 workers in Dallas and the hundreds of thousands more across the country, they require a constant, uninterrupted stream of new projects just to sustain their paychecks.
Exactly.
If the funding pauses and the state DOTs stop putting new work out to bid, those jobs are instantly at risk. You are carrying a massive overhead burden with a suddenly frozen pipeline.
Which is why the stakes are historically high this time around. The fall from this peak will be much steeper than the fall in 2009 because the baseline workforce is so much larger now.
That is terrifying.
It is. So we have to look ahead. Whenever the gridlock finally breaks and a replacement bill is hammered out, what is the actual reality of that legislation going to look like?
Right. Well, the general consensus across the intelligence we have is that expectations need a serious adjustment. The era of massive, unprecedented growth is pausing.
It's over for now.
Yeah. The next bill will almost certainly be leaner than the IIJA. Take the American Road and Transportation Builders Association, ARTBA.
What are they asking for?
They are currently asking Congress for a minimum of $84.6 billion in highway investment and $26.3 billion in transit for fiscal year 2027.
Okay.
But the crucial context here is that this ask is purely to offset the massive inflation we've seen since the IIJA baselines were set in 2021. I mean, materials cost significantly more today.
So it's not actually growth.
Exactly. That $84 billion isn't about funding new, expansive growth. It is just the bare minimum required to tread water and maintain current output.
That's a huge point. But while the overall package will be tighter, we are seeing some targeted bipartisan bright spots that contractors should really pay close attention to.
Like what?
Well, the Basics Act is gaining serious traction. This legislation is highly focused on bridge repairs and safety improvements, specifically for locally owned infrastructure.
Oh, nice. So if you run a bridge subcontracting firm or your crews specialize in structural repair and safety retrofits, the Basics Act is your beacon of hope.
Very much so.
It demonstrates that even in a highly polarized environment, there is still a strong bipartisan appetite for funding critical localized safety work because, failing bridges in local districts are a political liability for everyone. Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants a bridge collapsing in their district. And beyond specific bills, we also have to analyze the broader policy shifts that will dictate how money flows in the future. The Trump administration has outlined their specific priorities for the upcoming reauthorization. And looking at their proposals impartially, the primary focus is on overhauling federal processes and drastically increasing private sector investment to offset the federal deficit.
Okay, so pushing the cost to the private side.
Exactly. They want to lean heavily into public-private partnerships known as P3s and significantly expand the use of design-build project delivery methods rather than traditional design-bid-build.
Here's where it gets really interesting. A shift toward P3s and design-build isn't just a minor administrative change. It is a fundamental rewiring of how a contractor acquires and manages work.
It changes everything.
In a traditional public sector model, the state designs the project, and you simply bid on the cost to build it. Lowest responsive bid wins. But in a P3 or design-build environment, you are moving to a highly optimized, private investment-driven model.
Yeah, you have to bring a lot more to the table.
Contractors often have to bring financing to the table, partner with massive equity firms, and take on the design risks themselves. Your estimating department isn't just calculating the costs of concrete and steel anymore. They have to calculate long-term maintenance costs, risk allocation, and sometimes even toll revenue projections.
It requires a completely different operational strategy. The firms that win in a P3 environment are the ones that can guarantee schedule certainty and offer innovative engineering solutions that actually lower the life cycle cost of the asset.
It's a whole different ballgame.
So the very nature of the business is evolving. But let's bring this back to the immediate practical reality. What exactly happens on job sites across the country on October 1st if Congress misses the deadline and no bill is passed?
The immediate reality is that Congress will inevitably pass a short-term continuing resolution that simply carries the current IIJA funding mechanisms forward for a few weeks or months.
Just a Band-Aid.
It's just a Band-Aid. The good news for contractors, though, is that approximately $350 billion in IIJA formula funds have already been formally obligated to state and local agencies.
And that is a critical distinction. If you have a project that is already funded, the contracts are signed, and the dirt is already moving, you proceed with confidence.
That's safe.
Right. That money is locked in at the state level. The federal gridlock does not claw back funds that have already been legally obligated.
The danger, therefore, is entirely isolated to new project starts. The planning uncertainty freezes the pipeline for anything that hasn't already been inked.
Completely freezes it.
State DOTs simply will not advertise new massive projects if they lack long-term federal matching guarantees. The pipeline freezes, the backlog burns off, and the contractors are left holding the massive overhead.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, knowing all of this context, what is the exact survival playbook? What must a construction business owner do right now, 6 months out, to protect their margins and their workforce?
The intelligence points to a very specific 4-step strategy. Step 1 is aggressive diversification beyond federal-only work.
If your entire backlog is dependent on federal highway dollars, your business is entirely exposed to the whims of congressional gridlock.
You're at their mercy.
Yeah. You have to pivot your business development efforts. That might mean shifting your heavy civil crews toward private commercial site preparation, industrial facility expansions, or energy sector infrastructure, basically. Markets driven by private capital rather than legislative calendars.
Which is easier said than done, but absolutely necessary.
Yep.
Step 2 is about hyper-local engagement. You need to build incredibly tight, data-driven relationships with your state departments of transportation immediately.
Because at the end of the day, the state DOTs are the entities that actually control the spending of whatever federal funds do materialize.
So,
When a funding drought hits, they have to make hard choices about which projects get prioritized. You need to understand their metrics. During a freeze, DOTs typically shelve the massive billion-dollar mega projects and prioritize shovel-ready safety improvements and basic maintenance.
keep the lights on kind of stuff.
Right. So you need to be in constant communication with district engineers so you know exactly which smaller projects they are quietly prepping to release.
Step 3 is a direct follow-up to that. Get your pre-qualifications in order today for the project categories that are mathematically most likely to survive the cuts.
Don't wait.
Right, based on everything we've analyzed, that means local bridges, roadway maintenance, and specific transit safety upgrades. If your firm isn't pre-qualified for those exact types of work in your target states, you won't even be allowed to submit a bid when the limited work does hit the street.
And finally, step 4, pay very close attention to tomorrow's House Transportation Committee markup proceedings. The debates, the specific amendments introduced, and the pushback from different factions tomorrow will send massive early signals about exactly which sectors and delivery methods are going to get priority in the final legislation.
So, what does this all mean? We have laid out the $58 billion structural math problem that is breaking the system.
That's a huge gap.
We've explored the history of 33-month delays and what that actually did to equipment fleets and payrolls in 2009. We see the tens of thousands of newly hired workers in cities like Dallas whose jobs are now hanging in the balance.
Right.
And we've mapped out the strategic shift required to compete in a world dominated by P3s and design-build contracts. The era of easy, predictable federal infrastructure money is officially pausing.
The landscape is shifting beneath our feet, and the contractors who thrive in the 2030s will be the ones who adapt our estimating their operations and their government relations strategies today, rather than waiting until October to figure out why the bid boards are empty.
This affects every highway, bridge, and transit contractor in the country. If you want to keep navigating these massive industry shifts with us, please take a moment to subscribe to Scaling Legends on whatever platform you are listening on right now.
Please do.
Leave a rating and a review. It legitimately helps other construction business owners discover the deep dives and prepare their own operations. And most importantly, if your company bids on public work, share this audio directly with your chief estimator and your leadership team. They need to integrate this timeline into their strategic planning before September 30th arrives.
Absolutely.
Now, before we wrap up today, we need to address the operational reality of executing this survival playbook. When you are frantically trying to diversify your bids into private markets, navigate the complex risk allocations of new P3 contracts, and manage incredibly tight margins during a funding freeze, your leadership team cannot afford to be bogged down in administrative chaos.
No, they can't.
That is why we are thrilled that this deep dive and the market intelligence we referenced throughout our analysis is brought to you by Smart Business Automator.
Because when a market contracts, efficiency isn't just a buzzword. It is literally the only way to protect your profit margins. Smart Business Automator is an AI-powered platform built specifically for the complexities of construction management. Instead of just giving you another dashboard, it actively does the heavy lifting to identify risks before they cost you money.
Take their schedule risk detection, for example. If you are trying to keep your expanded workforce busy during a pipeline freeze, any delay on your active jobs can destroy your cash flow.
It's fatal.
This AI tool constantly analyzes your project data to spot bottlenecks like a delayed submittal or a lagging materials delivery before they actually derail your critical path. You also get incredibly deep budget, and variance insight.
Which is huge.
It tracks where every single dollar is moving in real time,
Yeah.
which is critical when you are shifting your business model and taking on new types of private sector work where you might not have historical cost data to rely on.
And if you are taking on more design build or private work, the scope is going to change constantly. Their change order impact analysis feature is brilliant.
How does that one work?
It doesn't just log the change. It tells your project managers exactly how a specific design alteration is going to cascade through your cost and schedule, allowing you to negotiate from a position of absolute data certainty. Plus, they have smart document organization, daily log and meeting summaries, and even automated report generation.
That saves so much time.
Oh, and document intelligence for your specs and drawings, smart search across all your project data, RFI assistance, and automated compliance checking.
That's incredible. It connects seamlessly with your existing ERPs and accounting software, acting as a dedicated AI project assistant for your leadership team. You need every strategic advantage you can get right now. Visit smartbusinessautomator.com to learn exactly how their custom AI workflows can protect your margins and streamline your operations as the market gets unpredictable.
Check them out.
As we sign off, I want to leave you with one final thought: to mull over something that isn't being discussed in the committee hearings, but could dictate the next 5 years of your business.
What's that?
If this legislative gridlock drags on for 33 months, state DOTs won't be the only ones freezing their pipelines. Domestic materials manufacturers, the massive concrete, steel, and aggregate suppliers, they will inevitably scale back their own production to match the drop in public sector demand.
Oh, wow. That's a scary thought.
Right. So the real question is this: when Washington finally passes a bill and the funding floodgates suddenly reopen, will you be caught in a massive industry-wide supply chain bottleneck? Or will you have secured the private sector relationships needed to guarantee your materials while everyone else is left waiting in line?
That is the multi-million-dollar question.
It really is. Thanks for joining us on Scaling Legends. Keep building, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.